You're listening to Friends Eastvale Weekly Sermon Podcast. Our mission is to become a community of Christ followers compelled to change the world. For more information about weekly services, small groups, and how you can become involved in our community, go to www.friendseastvale.com. Thanks for listening.
Well, good morning, friends. It is such a privilege and an honor to be here with you all this morning. I'm the substitute preacher, so we're just going to watch a video today. It's going to be great, right? Like, you remember back in high school, like the substitute teacher came in, didn't know your name, didn't know your story. You could get away with anything, right? Like paper airplanes, sleeping in class. It's all great. But I was thinking, like, what even would we watch together? Like maybe The Chosen, yeah, right? Maybe The Chosen, but just one episode, leave you on a cliffhanger so you have to come back next week. Like, that's church growth strategy right there, right? That Aaron should focus on this. But no, I've been asked to introduce myself because apparently it adds some street cred to who I am. So my name's Matt. If you have your Bibles, please, I'm just kidding, I'll give you some more. My name is Matt Dietz. I currently serve as the lead pastor over at Corona Friends Church, which is literally 15 minutes up the road on the other side of the 91. Yes, I am the other side of the 91 kind of people, right? But it's been such a blast. I have been in ministry serving for over 22 years now. I started off in parking lot ministries. I've done IT, audiovisual, youth ministry, adults, associate, and now serving as a lead pastor. And I am a perfectionist. I am an overachiever, and I have CDO. Does anybody know what CDO is? That's OCD in alphabetical order. That's the extent of it. And so what that really means is that I'm never content just doing one thing. So while I was doing all of ministry, I was really engaged, and I served 11 years as a teacher, a high school teacher for a Christian private school in Tustin, and I did 7 years at the Disneyland Resort as a cast member and a special events operator. So if this goes really bad today, I can teach you world history or point you to the nearest restrooms. Like, that's the extent of my training and my knowledge. But my family is here with me today. This is a picture of my family. This is The Art of Living, an ancient wisdom. They look great, don't they? That's my wife, Tiffany, my oldest, Oliver, and my youngest, Zeke. Hopefully you can figure out who is who from that picture. But we moved to Corona just a little over 2 years ago, and it's been great. It's just been a wild ride since we have been here. We moved from Yorba Linda, but we've been really enjoying it. And this is one of my favorite pictures of myself and my wife, Tiffany. This was a very special moment for us because it was taken at the wedding of one of our high school students. Nothing makes you feel old like marrying one of your high school students, right? It was weird. But the reason I love this picture is not because of the event itself, but because of the smile that she has on her face. And ever since this day, I have made it my goal as her husband, as her friend, to put that smile on her face every single day. Now, this is the only day that it's happened so far, but can't blame me for trying, right? Well, now that your opinions are a lot lower of me, let's go ahead and open up your Bibles to Proverbs chapter 13. And as you're opening up there, I want to share with you, several years ago, I was in my kitchen and I was cooking dinner because I do like to cook. And I was cooking with some peppers, and not like the bell peppers, like the spicy peppers, because I like to bring on the heat, right? And so I grab a knife and I begin cutting the pepper, but I soon realized that the knife that I grabbed was dull. Now, has anybody ever tried to cut something with a dull knife before? Anybody? Yeah, there's no cutting that actually happens, right? It's negotiating with it while you're massaging it. It's rolling all over the cutting board. There's juice everywhere. Seeds are flying out all over the place. And you're trying to catch it and touching it way more than you should. And I made the rookie mistake of doing this. Yeah, instant regret. And it actually wasn't pain that hit me first. It was confusion. Like, why does my soul feel like it's leaving my body right now, right? Something just felt weird. And in that moment, just betrayed by the pepper juice, I was angry. I was frustrated. And whenever we feel pain, whenever we feel hurt, whenever we're in agony, we always look for someone or something to blame, don't we? And it's never ourselves, because we could never be to blame for the pain that we're feeling right now. And so I had this knife, and there's nobody else in the kitchen, so this knife had to have been the culprit. So I slam it down on the table, and I'm like, this knife is pointless. It's dull. It's useless. What good is it anymore? But that wasn't true, was it? Because I don't just pick up this knife and throw it in the trash can. The knife just hasn't been sharpened, and that's on me. And if I had taken the time to properly sharpen the knife, then it would have been useful for the very thing that it was created to do. It would have been able to live up to what it was doing. And as I was thinking about this week, it made me wonder, and maybe you can resonate with this morning. How many times in your life have you just felt dull? Useless. Just like you're not cutting through things like you used to. Like things were going great, but now you're just in this rut and it feels like you're just meddling and smushing everything and you're confused on maybe purpose or direction. You find yourself asking, God, what are you doing? And I was wondering, maybe if in those seasons, it's not that we're useless, it's just that we haven't been properly sharpened. That we haven't been taking the time to invest in ourselves and the people around us and truly be sharpened. And so the question I want to pose this morning is simply that. It's, who are you surrounding yourself with that is sharpening you? Who is building into you? Who is investing in your life? Who is making you into the best version of yourself that you can be? Because we can have great dreams, we can have great aspirations, we can have strong faith, but if we surround ourselves with the wrong people for long enough, eventually we become the very person that we don't want to be. And this is what Proverbs is trying to warn us about. Let's take a look this morning at Proverbs 13 with verse 20. It says this, it'll be up here on the screen. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. Let me say it again. Walk with the wise and become wise, for the companion of fools suffers harm. And before we dive into this, I want us to get a little context, because this isn't just a Confucius saying. This isn't just some random advice. This is a father speaking to his son. It's a dad kneeling down, looking his boy in the eye and saying, son, I really need you to hear this from me before you learn it from the world the hard way. Proverbs says, in this life, there are two paths in front of us. One that leads to wisdom and one that leads to pain. One that leads to harm, one that leads to hurt and frustration and damage in our lives. And the problem is, at the very beginning, they both look exactly the same. There's friendships, there's relationships, there's laughter, there's good times, there's bad times. It feels good in the moment. They both feel normal. But at the end of the day, one leads to life and the other leads to destruction. And so what he's saying here is he says, I really need you to understand this, because I don't want you to have a life of destruction. I want you to fully grab a hold of the life, the best life that you possibly could have. And so when he says walk with the wise, he's not just giving advice or making a suggestion. He's drawing a line in the sand saying you need to stand on this ground. Because if you don't, you're going to end up on the road you don't want to be on. And that's why he uses that word walk. And that's a very intentional word, because what is walking? It's not running, right? Running is sprinting, it's going fast, it's going through it really quickly, but walk is intentional. It doesn't mean to visit, it doesn't mean to follow on Instagram, it doesn't mean to occasionally check in on, it means consistency. It means directionality, it means proximity over time. See, that's what he's getting at, is that we walk with the wise continually, every single day. We've got to make it a routine of our lives, because here's the truth. The people that you surround yourselves with will eventually shape your life. The relationships, the friendships that you find yourself surrounded by will eventually shape who you become. Not your instincts or what you want to do, your implications or your intuition, but the friendships that you put in your life. And here's the main point that I want us to see from this. And it's simply this, is that the life that you have, you don't end up with the life that you want. You end up with the life the relationships around you are shaping. You end up with the life the relationships around you are shaping. And here's how I know this. Here's why I can say this is true. Here's a little experiment for us. Let's just have a moment of honesty and vulnerability with each other. How many of you in this room, by raising your hands, would truthfully, wholeheartedly, honestly say that you are living the exact life right now that you dreamed of growing up? That's interesting. Why are there no hands, right? If we're really in control of our lives, shouldn't our hands be up? Well, no, some of us, we actually are living a better life than we imagined because people invested in us. People encouraged us. People saw potential in us and they helped us get ahead. Some of us were worse off because people took advantage of us. People hurt us. People betrayed us. And now we find ourselves in this tension of life saying, what am I supposed to do? Because this is not where I dreamed that I would be. This is not where I want to be. See, the people you surround yourself with will ultimately determine the direction you go, the direction of your life. And this is where it hits home for us because we don't choose relationships and friendships intentionally. We choose them out of convenience. Who's around us? Who agrees with us? Who affirms us? Who's easy to be a friend with? We don't choose friends that sharpen us. The reality is we don't go out looking and saying like, hey, would you really just be my friend so you could shape me into a better person? People would look at you and be like, you're weird. No, right? We don't do that. We choose it out of convenience. We choose it out of easiness. And here's the truth. When you look around you, some of the friends that you have in your life right now were chosen in a season of life that you're no longer in. You've grown. You've matured. You have felt God working and moving and leading you to somewhere, but that friendship hasn't followed it. And now you feel this tension because they're not bad people. They're not toxic. There's nothing bad about it. It's just they're not going in the same direction that you feel God is trying to lead your life. And you feel this tension. What am I supposed to do with this? And it's interesting because there's study after study after study out right now that talks about how as adults, we have fewer friendships now than we ever have before. In fact, in one of the studies done by the Barna Research Group, it said that the average adult in America has one, if not none, close friends in their life. The average American has one close friend if they're lucky, which is amazing to think about because we are the most connected generation there has ever been before. We can have 100, if not 1,000 followers on our Instagrams or our Facebook or our TikTok or whatever you're into. You can post your whole life story for the world to see, but yet you can still feel unseen. You can still feel lonely, like nobody knows you. Why? Like, why do we feel that? Well, because somewhere along the way, we've misunderstood what connectivity really is. And here's the truth, friends. Visibility, it's not connectivity. Visibility is not the same thing as connection with others. And some of you, you feel that this morning. This isn't theoretical. You're living this out because you came here in your car. You got out, you got some coffee, you were engaging and laughing and telling people about your day or what you did this week. Things are great, but now you're sitting here and yet you feel so alone. You think nobody understands how exhausted I really am. Nobody understands the weight of the decisions that I have to make this week. Nobody knows the pressure I'm getting from my family or from my friends. Nobody knows the addiction or the struggle that I'm dealing with that I just don't know what to do because it has such a hold over me. And so we sit there feeling isolated and we feel alone, not because other people aren't around you, but because nobody really knows you. And for those who you think know you, the truth is they don't even know the real version of you, just the version you want them to see, the version you want them to know. And that's why it's important for us to understand that we have friendships all around us in this life, but some of us, we don't have honest friendships. Look at this. We don't have honest friendships in our lives because we've built our lives around being liked, not by being known. We're more worried about what people will think about us, what people will say about us, how we fit into the group, rather than really opening ourselves up to being known, to letting them see a side of us that they've never maybe seen before, a side that we're hurting, a side that we're desperate to get help for. And that's what Proverbs is trying to warn us against. It says, don't be like this. Don't just try to gain the thumbs up or the likes or the hearts on your post. What would it look like if you were truly known by the people around you? How would your life change? If people really knew what you were going through, as risky as it could be, how could they maybe change your situation for the better? How could they help you through it? See, that's what he's warning. And then he gives us this flip side. He says that's what it means to walk with the wise, but here's the alternative. The companion of fools suffers harm. companion. It means to closely associate with, to do life with, to eat with, to fellowship with. Harm, it means suffering, brokenness, a shattering that takes place. And it's not instantaneous, it's gradual. You slowly become someone you don't recognize. See, the truth is, friends, we don't gradually just drift into right living, we drift into wrong living. And we have to understand that. We have to be aware of that. And some of you may be thinking, well, you know what, Matt? That's all great. It sounds good, but my friends, they're not really that bad. They're just complicated. I have complicated friends. And maybe that's true. I don't know your story, but what I do know is this, is that some of you this morning probably feel stuck. Where you've been praying to God, you've been asking him to change something, to open your eyes to something, to feel something, to do something, to move in your life, and you just feel like you're stuck. And you're stuck not because you don't know what's right. Look at this. You're stuck because you've surrounded yourself with people who normalize what's wrong. You've surrounded yourself by friends and people who just make you feel okay being the same rather than challenging you to what God has called you to, who God has called you to be, what God wants to do inside of your life. And we really see this everywhere. I mean, take Billy Graham, for example. Most of us know the name Billy Graham. If you don't know the name Billy Graham, I'm sorry. Billy Graham is one of the most influential Christian leaders in the last century, right? But he never did it alone. He talks again and again and again about how people invested in him. He studied with them. He trained with them. He did life with them. And one of them was this person by the name of George Beverly Shea, who was a songwriter, a ministry partner. And Billy Graham says, man, this was someone who held my feet to the fire. This is someone who called me out, who held me accountable, and we had friction. We had intense, heated moments, but every single time I walked away a better person because they wanted what was best for me, and they loved me enough to call me out when I needed it. See, that's Proverbs 13, walking with the wise. What does the other side look like? Mike Tyson, right? Great potential. He, at one point in his career, looked like he was unstoppable, but he ended up surrounding himself with people who took advantage of him, people who stole from him. And he's very open about it in his writings and conversations. His partnership with Don King, he says, I was wrecked financially, mentally, and physically because of this partnership. Same potential, different influences, very different outcomes. See, friends, this is what we're trying to get at. This is what Proverbs is trying to help us understand. The people you surround yourself with will either sharpen you or they're going to dull you. They're going to make you feel like a lesser version of yourself. And we have to have our eyes open to that, to see that. And I mean, I've gone through it in my life. I've had friendships in my life that have felt right in the moment, but they weren't leading me right. We had history, we had fun, we would do great adventures together, we would laugh, we've got all of these memories, but at the end of the day, they just made me feel comfortable in what God was really trying to change in me. And I stayed in those relationships and those friendships so much longer than I should have, not because I didn't know better, but because it was easier than having to have a conversation with them. And I really believe that one of the hardest things that God calls us to do is not just to step away from the sin in our life, but to have our eyes open to the people in our lives who are keeping us in our sin. Because we don't want to acknowledge that. We don't want to have to deal with that. Those kind of conversations, they're difficult. They're hard. And we try to avoid that because we want the easy road, because we pick friendships out of comfort. Nobody who's going to press against us, nobody who's going to ask the hard questions, nobody who's going to dig deep, just the people who make us feel okay. And we call that living peacefully. But friends, that's not peace, that's protection. And protection eventually leads to isolation. And that feeling of alone, that feeling of being stuck. And that's why it says you need to walk with the wise. Because what does walking with the wise do? That's the next part of this. In Proverbs 27:17, it says this: as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. That sounds great, right? Like, man, I want to be sharp. That sounds encouraging until you actually understand what sharpening is. Sharpening is friction. it's pressure, it's contact, it's sparks. If you look at the Hebrew word that's used here, it means sharpening through resistance. You see, if your friendships and your relationships aren't convicting you and challenging you, they're conforming you. They're making you into someone that you don't want to be. Someone you've been trying to avoid, that person you've been trying to put back that you never want to be like. If they're not stretching you, they're shrinking you, and that's why this matters. That's why understanding this is so important for us. So that's all great, right? But what do we do with this? Like, what does it really mean to be a godly friend? To have a godly relationship, to be a godly person? What is the difference between a worldly friend and a godly friend? Well, a worldly friend will just sit with you, but a godly friend will shape you. A worldly friend will comfort you and tell you, you know what, it's their fault, not yours. A godly friend will say, well, let's take a minute. Have you looked at it from their perspective? What did they hear? What did they see? What did they experience? They're going to challenge you. A worldly friend will step into your life and agree with you, but a godly friend will call you higher, will call you into something better. And it's so important that we surround ourselves and we let these wise friends sharpen our lives, because when we become sharpened, we can handle life's battles. Because here's the truth, life is a battle. I don't know if you know that or not. Maybe you haven't experienced it yet. But life is a battle. And I'm going to be honest, life sucks sometimes. There's real pain. There's real hurt. There's real frustration. There's real searching and longing and doubt and frustration and anger and pride and ego that exists inside of our souls that we don't know what to do with. And we think, well, if I come to church, if I'm a Christian, I just got to put this smile on and pretend like I'm okay. But the reality is we're hurting on the inside. You know, this week I got to experience the funeral of one of my close friends. And it wrecked me in the best way possible. Because life's unfair. And it's so tempting for people to come up and to say, man, you know what? You just need to say, it is well with my soul. Because that's what the hymns teach us. That's what the Christian should do, right? You're not supposed to show pain because you have Christ who overcomes. It is well with your soul. But the reality is, it's not even close to being well with my soul. Because life is hard. And what I need is not somebody to come alongside of me and pat me on the back and say, hey, you know what, Matt, you're going to get through this. It's going to be great. What I need is somebody to come alongside of me and says, hey, let's process this together. How can we use what we've learned to make a difference, to change our lives for the better, to reach us in a different way? You see, that's what it is. Having godly friends who sharpen you, they shape you and prepare you for the battles of life, because life is a battle. Marriage is a battle. Parenting is a battle. Finances is a battle. Success is a battle. Careers is a battle. Relationships, mental health, you name it. Everything in life is a battle. And here's what I know. Dull people, they struggle through battles. Sharp people, they tend to make it through and are better on the other side because they have been surrounded by a group of people who see something in them that they don't see in themselves and are able to help walk them and coach them and guide them and lead them along. And I know this message this morning, it sounds like, hey, you know what you need to do? You just need to get rid of all your non-Christian friends. That's part of the reason why I hired into Disneyland. Because when I looked at my life, I was surrounded by all Christians. And so I thought and I prayed and I felt convicted. Actually, it was a pastor who spoke and made me realize that I had just put myself in a Christian bubble. And as I prayed, I began to ask, God, where can I go that I would be surrounded by non-believers? And I found the one place that is just surrounded by non-believers. But it was amazing. Because there were so many conversations, there were so many opportunities where I could just lean in and just share the love of God, and it was fantastic. You see, I don't think that what this passage is saying is to get rid of all of your Christian friends, because there's an importance that we have a call to go and make more and better disciples of this world. If you look at Jesus' life, he surrounded himself with his disciples, but where did he spend most of his time? With sinners, with people caught in adultery, with people who were doing wrong, people who the society had casted out. He spent time with them because it was a different form of sharpening, because he could show grace and mercy and forgiveness and love, things that we all need to be sharpened in our life. so that way when we do experience battles of life, we're able to use those same things to glorify God. And say, God, we just need a peace that only heaven can bring to get me through this. Because that's what he does. He surrounds you with the right people. You just have to have your eyes open to see it. But here's the other part of this, is the truth right here. More often than not, we avoid sharpening not because we don't want growth, but because we don't want to be seen. Because friendships require honesty, visibility, truth. It's difficult because there's a risk in being known. It's uncomfortable having to be honest. We feel rejected when we're challenged or when we're held accountable. But that's exactly what this passage is talking about. It's saying you need to invest in those relationships because at the end of the day, they see you, they know you, and they can help you through the life's battles that you're going to come up against. And yet we can still push against it, not because we don't know it's the right thing, but because in our heart, we just don't want to change. Which really tells us that this isn't just a friendship or relationship issue, this is a heart issue about who you're letting have control over your life. And friends, this is why Jesus matters so much, because he sees you. He sees your brokenness. He sees your shame. He sees your doubt. He sees your worry. He sees your fear. He sees your mess. He sees your uncertainty. He sees your frustration. He sees your pain. He sees your battles, and he still walks towards you, not away from you. He doesn't just comfort you, he transforms you. He doesn't just give you a new life, he gives you a new heart, something great to grab a hold of and go after, because even when we were in our worst of worst, he still calls us redeemed and still sees something in us that we don't even see in ourselves. That's the power of God. That's the power of having Jesus in our life, is it doesn't just open our eyes to surrounding ourselves with the right people, but it allows us to be a better friend as well. When's the last time you sharpened someone? When's the last time you went out of your way to encourage someone, to invest in someone, to help someone who was hurting? I don't know. What I do know, though, is our culture, it's not always just friendships. The reality is it's busyness. We're a busy people. We're always moving from one thing to the next, from sports games to kids events and activities to school pickups and drop-offs to work and work events and life. And our problem isn't always friendships. Our problem is that we haven't even made the time to truly be known. But what would change in your life if you took a risk, as uncomfortable as it may be, and said, I can't do this by myself anymore. I feel stuck. I feel like I keep calling out and asking God to change, but yet I'm unwilling to let go of the very things that are preventing me from changing. I'm going to invite the worship team up as I close, and I want to close by asking you this simple question. Who is shaping you right now? What voices are you allowing to speak into your life? Who is determining the direction of your future? Because they're either sharpening you or they're dulling you. And some of you, as we've been talking about this, you already know that name. You see that face. You know that relationship. You know what you need to step into. You know what you should step out of. And maybe you know that you just need to surrender because you're tired of doing this alone. You're tired of doing this all by yourself, and you're desperate to finally be seen. Well, being seen involves risk, friends. And so today I just want to challenge you. Don't just rush off to the next thing. Invite someone to lunch. If you're invited to lunch, say yes. Change your plans, because changing of plans can change lives. Because you're willing to invest in someone. You're willing to hear out somebody, and don't just say, hey, let's go to lunch and let's just talk sports or kids or what we're doing today. Really take a chance to get to know each other, because here's the truth, friends in Lynn. Life isn't done in rows, life's done in circles. It's done when we gather together and we support one another. That's why life groups are so important. That's why small group gatherings, men's ministry, women's ministry, those are the moments that really have impacts, because that's where lives are changed for the better. Because you're willing to take a risk, to be open, to do something uncomfortable, and letting God move the pieces to do something great in your life. So friends, would you just say yes today? yes to the change that God may be calling you to. Or even as you walk out of this place, if you don't want to do that, just to think, not walk out of here thinking, oh man, that guy was funny looking. Funny, that's what I meant to say. Don't walk out of here thinking, man, that was just a great message. I want you to walk out of there feeling challenged, to really look around you and ask, are my friends in my life right now the friends that God is surrounding me with? Or are they the friends my old life has put in place? Do I feel like they're equipping me? Do I feel like they're sharpening me? Or do I still feel stuck with nowhere to go? And give it to God, surrender, and I guarantee you he's gonna open your eyes to seeing some stuff and unveiling to you a plan of how he wants to change your life for the better. Would you pray with me, friends?
Thanks again for listening to the sermon. We hope you were blessed. If you would like to share your story, give to the mission, or simply learn more about following Jesus, go to www.friendseastvale.com.